Hello, hello, hello. Koble back at it again. This time we're going to be talking about how the current U.S. government was created. Now, in the interest of time, we are just going to be doing the creation of the Constitution. We are not going to be talking about the actual powers within it, or, we'll get to those later, or the Bill of Rights. We're just kind of going over the first part of it. In a second video, I will go over the actual branches of the government and how they are affected. But today, the first overall big question is, how does America's government protect its citizens from tyranny? That's what we're going to be exploring. Probably not all in this video, but in the future. All right. So as a quick vocab reminder, federal are things that affect the whole country. So all 50 states and the country as a whole. That is federal. So decisions today are made in Washington, D.C., which I know we actually don't know where it is, but Washington, D.C. is over here in Maryland. It's not in Washington State. It is in like Maryland. It is a small little area called the District of Columbia, but Washington, D.C., East Coast, Maryland. Okay. So federal, whole country. State are things that only affect the individual states. So California makes its own laws that only affect California. So your education standards, what I teach, are not based on federal standards. They're based on state standards. So if I went to Arizona or Mississippi or Alabama to teach, the content I would be teaching would be different. Other quick vocab reminders. Legislative means to write laws. So I'm going to turn on my camera, but it's very important. I use a lot of hand motions when we get to this part of the year. So I say Congress. So Congress writes laws. What does Congress do? Congress writes laws. And I want you all to do that and look like a dummy in your room alone. Congress writes laws. So they write bills. That's what the legislative branch does. I misspelled it. The legislative branch writes laws. So this is Congress, the United States. It's Parliament in other parts of the world. The next one is executive. Executive Executive is like the president. So the executive branch enforces laws. So imagine putting on a little tie. Executive enforces laws. This is not only the president, but it's also the FBI. It's also the CIA. It's also the Postal Service. U.S. Postal Service does this too, in terms of like they carry things out. So maybe instead of force, they carry out the laws or they carry out certain actions. Last one is judicial. The justices interpret laws. So imagine you're banging a gavel against like the thing because you're like ordering the court. These are your courts. So judges interpret laws. So basically they'll say, hey, this is what this law says. Here's the situation. Here's how the law applies or does not apply to this situation. And we'll get into that later. But these are your Supreme Court justices. Okay, cool. So we know about Articles of Confederation. We know that the state government had way too much power. Federal government was boo-boo trash and had no power. The big Chad state government. Okay. Overall, Articles of Confederation, weak because the feds couldn't tax people. States had all the power. There's only one branch of government. Cool. How are we going to change that? So in 1787, bunch of really smart people get together, including Hamilton. Hamilton's somewhere in here. You have other dudes like George Washington and Thomas Jefferson and John Adams and all these white guys, being realistic, meet during one summer in 1787 to figure it out. They got to figure it out within about a month. And just some context, this is in the middle of Philadelphia in July. It is hot. It is 105 degrees. They're in some kind of church with no air conditioning, and they're all wearing fluffy suits. I am very surprised that there was not a fight that broke out. I'm sure there was, actually. Imagine George Washington being like, hey, yo, Jefferson, meet me outside at 3 p.m. You won't. Well, watch what happens when you debate branches of government with me. Okay, I'm getting off topic. That'd be a fun TV show, though. Okay, never mind. So in this convention, they're saying Articles of Confederation are weak. We need to make 3 branches of government. We need to have a balanced government. But we still need to limit the powers. Some people are saying we need to limit the powers of the feds even more. There's a lot of different ideas at this time, but the critical idea going forward is how are we going to balance the power between the federal government and state government? Also, how are we going to balance the power between large states and small states so that everyone has a fair shake? Oh yeah, and George Washington is everyone's celebrity crush. What up? I'd ship him. Okay. Cool. So how are we gonna start this document off? He's like, how about a name? So they call it the U.S. Constitution. And basically, what this document is this is what's currently in power. So it is a set of guidelines and laws that determine the powers and responsibilities of the American government. It is a manual. It is a playbook. When the president is sworn into office, the first thing they say is, Mr. President or Madam President, do you swear to abide by and protect the Constitution of the United States? That is the first thing they say. So this is a very big deal. So really fast, in your notes, I want you to create a flowchart on how the Revolutionary War and maybe the causes of the Revolutionary War led to the Articles of Confederation, and then what caused that to fall and lead to the Constitution. In your flowchart, you must use the 5 following terms, and they're right here: tyranny, democracy, federal, state, and weak. I want you to draw this on paper because flowcharts are really hard to make on Google Docs. So draw something on paper. In terms of what a flowchart looks like, Google it. Some flowcharts look like this. Some flowcharts look like this. Some flowcharts are just like a picture, like a drawing. Hey, this happened first, which led to this, which led to this, which led to this, which led to this, which led to this. You know, a lot of arrows. Basically, tell me a story on how we got from the Revolutionary War and the causes behind it to the Constitution. Okay. So go ahead and work on that now. And that's it for this part of the lecture.